A couple hours ago, I dropped a video showing posts and videos and other info from the Iranian side of the conflict, at least what was made available on X. And in this video, I'm going to show a collection of posts regarding the ongoing Iran conflict on our side of the pond. Some serious posts, while others are a bit comical. So I'll start with this one from Vince Langman. Oh, look, the hero of the Democratic Party had the same stance on Iran as President Trump. The only difference is Barack Obama didn't have the balls to back up his tough words. And there's Mitt Romney. So let's see what this says on MAGA News Now.
National security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford.
Let me restart that. Volume's down.
Because a nuclear Iran is a threat to our national security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford to have a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world.
Well.
Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism, and for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable. And they have said that they want to see Israel wiped off the map. So the offers Iran a choice. They can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program, or they will have to face a united world and a United States president, me, who said we're not going to take any options off the table.
Well, all right. And meanwhile, you have AOC and Nancy Pelosi calling for Trump's impeachment because he bombed the nuclear sites in Iran. So it's interesting how things change on a dime as they do over on the Democratic Party. Anything Trump does, they have to take the opposite stance immediately, no matter what it might be, because they're absolute lunatics sometimes. I mean, I don't know, let's be real. They've been lunatics almost constantly for like the last 10 years. It all falls into the whole Trump derangement syndrome category. But anyway, I'll continue with here. Dustin Grange, Democrats are now afraid of Iran's potential response, but weren't afraid of them getting a nuclear weapon. I can't help you. You're not serious, people. And the next one from Natalie F. Danielishin. This, she's sharing from Leading Report. Breaking, Vice President J.D. Vance reportedly pulled back against Israeli officials during an intense phone call, saying the United States should not be directly involved in the war and suggesting that the Israelis were going to drag the country into it, according to Reuters. And that sits at 2.4 million views, posted just yesterday. This is, of course, it's a parody. It's comical, so, take it as a big joke, but I'll go ahead and play it, and we'll see what this is all about. Uh-oh. E2 and fighters. Oh, no. Now I know what they're playing. You dropped the bomb on me. All right. All right. Well, it just goes to show you never know what you're going to find over on X. I mean, like the level of creativity is just unmatched, it seems sometimes. Hey, man, that was Green Frog Labs. That wasn't me. That was them. Don't look at me. That was them. All I'm doing is just showing what I'm seeing on the internet that all of us can see on the internet in this free speech platform that they call X now, formerly Twitter. So let me go ahead and just move on from that. I'll go on to the next one. I did adjust my volume. My bad if I blew out your eardrums. I didn't expect it to be that loud. Anyway, this is from, let me start with James Woods since they reposted this. James Woods, none of this would have been, let me start over again. None of this would have been necessary had Barack Obama not pushed his treacherous Iran deal. He brokered this near catastrophe, and if the abomination known as Kamala Harris had been elected, there would have been nuclear war in the Middle East. Yeah, I mean, very good chance. I don't know if it would have been there just yet, but we certainly would have been on that track, that's for sure. And from Miranda Devine, in response to James Woods, Obama and Biden. Don't forget, Biden reanimated the JCPOA that Trump had axed and allowed Iran to get rich again so it could fund its proxies to attack Israel. Remember, Robert Malley, Antony Blinken's childhood friend from their prestigious Parisien École, I don't even know how to pronounce that, who Biden reappointed as Iran envoy. Malley was suspended without pay pending an FBI investigation into an Iranian influence ring and his mishandling of classified information, which allegedly found its way into Iranian hands. Naturally, the Ivy League came to his rescue, giving him gigs at Yale and Princeton. Yep, they do protect their own, don't they? And this comes from Cillian. I don't know if this actually has to do with the ongoing conflict. This happened in Syria, so I just figured I would make it known because this was just posted a few hours ago that a suicide bomber has blown himself up inside an Orthodox church in Damascus, Syria during Sunday Mass. 25 people have died and 80 people have been hospitalized, with 30 of those in critical condition. This is horrific, and it is. Please pray for Syrian Christians. Yes, God bless Syrian Christians. I hope the fallen rest in peace, and hopefully they can do what they can to pick up the pieces and rebuild and move on. I mean, he was a suicide bomber, so I mean, hopefully those that he was involved with are going to pay for that because he didn't act alone, most likely. Most likely he had help from other sources, probably Iran, but, not really 100% sure there. So this comes from Wall Street Mav. Unfortunately, never forget. Remember how we got here. Hillary Clinton supplied Iran with uranium to enrich their nuclear program. Barack Obama gave Iran $1.7 billion. That's in cash, by the way, American $100 bills, that they used to fund their nuclear program, and Joe Biden unfroze over $16 billion worth of funds for Iran. So don't even blame this on Trump. Trump is just finishing, what these idiots had started in the first place. So let's move on to Jeffrey Mead. Just a reminder about peace through strength. For it to work, your adversaries must believe two things. You have the power to hurt them, military, economic, diplomatic, etc. And number two, you are willing to use that power if pushed. Without both, it's just empty posturing. A strong military or arsenal doesn't mean much if your enemies believe you won't pull the trigger. The threat must be credible, not theoretical. That's why projecting strength and following through when necessary is so important. Peace isn't maintained by hope, it's maintained by deterrence. Last night was quite literally solidifying the core of peace through strength. And the next one from Governor DeSantis, my governor. President Trump has been consistent and correct that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. During the Biden administration, Iran was on a surefire path to a nuclear weapon. Thanks to Operation Midnight Hammer, those nuclear ambitions have been reduced to a far-fetched dream. While we don't know how or if Iran will respond, our efforts to rescue Floridians from the war zone in Israel will continue. And I guess I'll give this a play. We'll see.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has done many efforts to get people home, more than 1,500 people back to America. The governor joins me right now.
Well, that's
Governor,
very nice.
Thank you for being here. Your
That's a good
reaction
thing.
to what has taken place.
Bring Floridians back home.
Well, President
If they
Trump's
wanna come
policy
home,
has
you
been
know.
consistent and correct that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. And his actions last night put force behind that policy in a way that I think is going to be very beneficial for the U.S. interests and the broader world. Think about it. Under President Biden, Iran was on a surefire path to a nuclear weapon. Now, thanks to President Trump's actions, Iran going nuclear is a pipe dream at this point. So it was the correct decision. It was expertly executed, and hats off to everybody that's been involved in that. And I think that we understood.
Yeah, and apparently the Pentagon, they kept it very, very tight-lipped and highly, highly classified, and like not a peep was leaked. And we all know in the last few years, well, I mean, come on, let's be real. For like the last 10 years, it seems, there have been leaks all over the place. Washington has been leaking like a sieve. Even in the Supreme Court, they were even leaking information with regard to the overturning of the abortion or Roe v. Wade. And yeah, I mean, they leaked that like a week or so before the decision was handed down. So it is honestly kind of surprising that there wasn't any information leaked about this, how it just suddenly happened. And we actually, for a change, we found out about it after the fact. The Operation Midnight Hammer, as they called the operation where they blew up the nuclear facilities in Iran.
When the first war broke out with Israel and Iran, this was going to have implications for our country one way or another. And in Florida, we knew, just as a matter of fact, we had a lot of our residents that were over in Israel as these ballistic missiles were raining down. Ben Gurion Airport, as you mentioned, was shut down. And so how do you get these people back? Now, we rescued many people after the Hamas attacks on October 7th, 2023. We've also rescued Floridians and other Americans from instability in Haiti. And so we sprung into action. We were able to get 1,500 during the first week out of Israel. And
Nice.
we're now running flights. We've had hundreds of people repatriated back to Florida. I was in Tampa the other day greeting people in the wee
That's
hours
roughly
of the
where I'm at.
morning. And
I'm in
it's a
St. Pete.
difficult situation. If you're a college student over there studying abroad, or if you're there with your family, all of a sudden you're in this midst of a situation which is very, very dicey. So those operations are ongoing. We're going to continue to help rescue our fellow Floridians and fellow Americans when they need help.
Thank you
I
for
assume our
those
tax dollars
flights
are paying
from
for that.
Tel Aviv to Tampa, very effective. Governor, when you were in the House of Representatives, you also studied the Iran conflict. Do you expect retaliation?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Well, Iran has always been an asymmetric threat, Maria, in the sense that that was one of the reasons the nuclear problem was such a big issue, because they're
gonna be tricky
militant
for 'em.
Islamists. And so
they don't wanna
using
piss off
nuclear
China,
weapons, even if there was a
among
devastating
others.
response against them, that may be an inducement for them to use it, given their radical ideology. I would imagine a conventional response is not going to be very effective against the United States. They are not a match for us there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, they have allies that are depending on Iran, especially for their oil and their gas, and namely China, in a very big way. So they want to close the Strait of Hormuz, and that's going to have a pretty negative effect, especially economically, on the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and I think they threw Iraq in there too. So it's not just going to have a negative effect on the United States. And I mean, I would argue it may not have that much of a negative effect on us either way if they close the Strait of Hormuz, because I mean, we get a lot of our oil in-house. And I mean, we were a net exporter of oil during Trump's first administration. So if we did it once, I'm sure we could do it again. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how that shakes out, if they're actually going to at least attempt to close it down. But from what I've heard, we're going to try to keep it open. Our military will. So we're going to try to be a deterrent against Iran if they do end up trying to close that strait. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Ron DeSantis. Militarily, I mean, it's kind of a pipe dream, in my opinion. I mean, knock on wood, God forbid, that Iran is able to retaliate against our country for the strikes directly against our country, other than hitting certain U.S. military bases in the region. I mean, we have a number of bases in the Middle East, so I'm sure they're on heightened alert. They're ready for probably just about anything. So, I mean, those are probably the two most likely scenarios that we might see out of Iran, is them trying to close the strait and also targeting American bases. And, of course, they're just going to keep, lobbing missiles and drones and bombs out toward Israel, which they did right after we dropped our bombs on them last night. So anyway,
but I do
let's continue.
think that they will try to work through their proxies to deliver more terrorism in the region. And as you mentioned earlier in your show, President Biden let in.
Well, and you know what? He didn't say what I thought he was about to say. As far as the possibility of sleeper cells, we had tens of millions of illegal immigrants pour into the country in recent years, and they didn't just come from Central America, Mexico, South America, Latin America, Caribbean. They didn't just come from those regions. They came from China, they came from Africa, they came from the Middle East, they came from all over the place. So undoubtedly, we have quite a lot of Iranian illegal immigrants that are somewhere around the country, and there's really no telling what they may be capable of, or what they might be here to ultimately do. And that's honestly a scary thought. And so I guess that is a potential third option that we really should be extra concerned with, which I'm sure that our intel agencies, the FBI, I'm sure that they're hard at work trying to make sure that they catch anything that could pop off before it happens. But I mean, I guess we'll just have to keep our heads on a swivel.
Massive numbers of people during his administration. Are we to believe that Iran, who they view us as the great Satan, that they just didn't want to take advantage of that? I think it's probably the case that they did. So I think it'll be more of an asymmetric response. I don't think that they can match the United States conventionally.
Governor, thank you very
I think
much.
he's
We'll
right.
be watching your work in Florida. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
All right. Well, that's that. Governor Ron DeSantis, and that was on his X profile. And this comes from C3 and got 13,000 likes. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I thought this should be mentioned. So the reminder, why weren't certain people informed of the Iran operation? Here's a video of General Milley admitting undermining the president of the United States and committing treason with China. They would have done the same with Iran. Many in our government can't be trusted, and I certainly agree with that. So here's a clip from
Chinese
that,
thought
which I believe was during Trump's
wrongly
first administration.
that the United States was going to attack them. I am certain, guaranteed certain, that President Trump had no intent to attack. And it was my task to make sure I communicated that. And the purpose was to de-escalate, calm things down.
You shared all that earlier. I understand.
And as part of that,
Just say, did you or did you not tell him that if we were going to attack, you would let him know?
as part of that conversation, I said, General Lee, there's not going to be a war, there's not going to be attack between great powers. And if there was, the tensions would build up. There'd be calls going back and forth from all kinds of senior officials. I said, hell, General Lee, I'll probably give you a call, but we're not going to attack you. Trust me, we're not going to
Trying to
attack you.
downplay it.
These are two great powers, and I am doing my best to transmit the president's intent, President Trump's intent, to ensure that the American people are protected.
I was trying to give him a heads up before it happens.
I understand your intent, but I think you articulating that you would tell him, you would give him a call, I think is worthy of your resignation.
Yeah.
I just think that's against our country, that you would give our number one adversary that information and tell him that.
Yeah, not good. That's pretty much the face of the woke military. Let's see here. The next one, election wizard. Democrats are panicking over Iranian terror sleeper cells in the USA. Yet these same Democrats support blocking deportations and throwing temper tantrums over the border wall. Open borders, no vetting, and now they're worried about national security. That is a fair point. And this is from Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who is my representative here in Southern Pinellas County. Now would be a good time to leave the UN. China lecturing the U.S. on the UN Charter is really rich. They commit human rights abuses and send spy balloons over the U.S. Yeah, that's true. And that's not, it's more of a China issue than an Iran issue. But the UN Charter is kind of taking center stage right now because Iran keeps yelling about that, about how, this whole nuclear program is part of the UN Charter and the U.S. bombing these nuclear facilities. We weren't just bombing Iranian assets and interests. We were also bombing, UN interests in some roundabout way, which I don't have really any knowledge on at all. But for this one's kind of a history lesson for you. So this comes from Raven's Nest, and they posted this about 4 hours ago. And so let's see here. The conflict between the United States and Iran has lasted for about 45 years, beginning in 1979 with an Iranian revolution and the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis. Full stop. If you haven't seen the movie Argo, that's a good movie to see. It was directed, written, I think, by Ben Affleck, and he also was the main character in the movie, where he was a CIA operative who was sent to Iran to rescue American employees of the U.S. Embassy in Iran when the Iranians took it over in 1979, and it was a rescue mission. And I don't really want to give away spoilers or anything, but it is a good movie. I think it came out in like 2012, so it's been out for a while. Definitely a good one to watch if you're into, recent history movies, especially like with government operations and, covert goings on and things like that. It was good. It was a good one. So anyway, it has concluded diplomatic rupture, proxy wars, sanctions, nuclear negotiations, and military confrontations. So here's a timeline overview. 1979, that was the start of hostility between Iran and the U.S. The U.S.-backed Shah of Iran was overthrown in the Islamic Revolution. In November of 1979, Iranian militants seized the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, which in the movie Argo, that's why I bring it up, that was at the very beginning of the movie. That was how the movie started, was them taking over the U.S. Embassy. And a handful of Americans were able to slip out the back door, and they took off running down the street. They were somehow not caught, and they slipped into the Canadian ambassador's private home, where they hid for a long period of time until they were able to give them give them alternate identities and make them appear as Canadian citizens. And long story short, they were able to get them out. The reason why I'm throwing out those spoilers is because it's based on a true story, and that actually happened. So anyway, let's see here. So the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, November 1979, taking 52 American hostages for 444 days. The U.S. and Iran have found no, or the U.S. and Iran have had no formal diplomatic relations since 1980. And in the 1980s, the war and proxy conflict. U.S. supported Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988. The U.S. Navy fought Iran in the Persian Gulf from 1987 and 1988 during Operation Praying Mantis. Then the Iran-Contra affair linked covert U.S. arms sales to Iran to fund rebels in Nicaragua. And then number 3, during the 1990s, sanctions and isolation. The U.S. labeled Iran a sponsor of terrorism. Sanctions were imposed over Iran's nuclear ambitions and support for Hezbollah and Hamas. So their nuclear ambitions, it's not new. They've been pursuing this endeavor since at least the 1990s. So in the 2000s, the axis of evil and nuclear tensions. In 2002, President George W. Bush called Iran part of the axis of evil. Tensions rose over Iran's nuclear program and its role in attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq via Shia militias. In 2015, the nuclear deal in brief thaw. Under Obama, the U.S. and world powers signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, otherwise known as the acronym JCPOA, limiting Iran's nuclear program. Some sanctions were lifted as a result. And then in 2018, the U.S. withdrawal and renewed tension. Under Trump, the U.S. withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018 and reimposed sanctions. Iran responded by escalating uranium enrichment and backing militia attacks on U.S. forces. In 2020, the U.S. killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. And then from 2021 to 2025, hostility under Biden. Efforts to restore the nuclear deal stalled. Then Iran-backed militias had continued attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. 2024, a 2024 drone strike killed 3 U.S. soldiers during that time. And then diplomatic talks coexisted with military tension. And this is actually a pretty decent thread. They actually give more detailed information on this. So Jimmy Carter, 1977 to 1981, Operation Eagle Claw, which was April 1980, a failed mission to rescue American hostages from the U.S. Embassy in Tehran during the Iran hostage crisis. The hostage crisis began November 4th, lasted 444 days. 66 hostages were taken. Americans were initially, and then released. All surviving 52 hostages were released January 20th, 1981, the day Ronald Reagan was inaugurated. We did not attack Iran's government or military, but did perform a covert special forces operation, i.e. Argo. 8 U.S. servicemen died in a helicopter crash. So they go on to actually show a number of other significant historical events that occurred between the U.S. and Iran. I'll see if I can link that in the description. I'll try to do that. I think I can do that. So let me go back and we'll continue on this list here. So this comes from Jack Posobiec, or Jack Poso. This is Marco Rubio that he's quoting. I urge Beijing to call Iran and talk to them about the Strait of Hormuz. Closing it would be a serious mistake and massive escalation, as it certainly would. So this is a flashback from I Love America News. As soon as I get rid of that. So Donald J. Trump never gotten over the fact that Obama was able to send $1.7 billion in cash, pallets of cash, to Iran, and nobody in Congress, the FBI, or Justice called for an investigation. But yet AOC and Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats are calling for Trump to be impeached because of this missile or bomb strike on these 3 nuclear sites that happened yesterday. Oh, have times have changed, or have they? Anyway, Sean Hannity, he tweets out, General Dan Raisin Kane, any retaliation by the Iranians would be an incredibly poor choice. So let's give this clip a play here.
Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority.
So they're ready.
This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the President clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this.
Yep, I absolutely believe that. I mean, they used stealth bombers. They didn't even see them coming. Essentially a ghost of the skies. So that most likely, I believe that that statement was made during the 8 a.m. press briefing that the Pentagon held this morning. And so that was, again, from Sean Hannity's post. And let's see, Mr. Red Pills, Joka Karmi, from a different perspective. Iranian man said is going on over in Iran. How do y'all support this? So I watched about half of this, and this was interesting. So so this person, he's not in Iran. He actually found a video of a guy in Iran, English speaking, describing what's happening over there. So I thought this was interesting to play. Actually, let me adjust the volume because I don't know how loud this really gets. So I'll crank it up if need be. So here we go.
So I'm about to show y'all a video of an Iranian man and what he has to say about the evil regime and how they are in support of what Israel is doing and taking out this evil Islamic regime in Iran.
What's up, my people? Just wanted to share with y'all that the Islamic regime in Iran, the Islamic government, shut down the internet for over 12 hours right now, so we haven't heard anything of our families and friends. And remember,
the internet
this is not America, this is not Israel doing this. This is a fucking government in Iran. This is an Islamic regime. And y'all wonder why we hate them? They've been doing this to my people for 47 years. We are worried for the political prisoners. We are worried for our regular people because we think that since they're losing the war to Israel, they might just take their fucking revenge on our own people. And y'all wonder why we hate them? Why my people are cheering on Israel to bomb them? And then we do have some people that come to us and ask us, why are you happy that Israel is bombing Iran? Israel is not bombing Iran. Israel is bombing IRGC and the Islamic regime, their bases, their members. And yes, my people love that. My people hate the government. We've been trying to take them down for 46 years, and they killed us. They killed us so many fucking times.
They overthrew the Shah of Iran.
So don't fucking tell us that bullshit.
So maybe now y'all understand that Israel is not bombing the people. Y'all just heard it out of his own mouth what bases that Israel is bombing and what they're trying to do. They are in support of that. Y'all have to understand the Iranian regime are evil people. They are evil. The people in Iran hate the regime that they're under right now. Y'all are in support of keeping these people under this regime and putting nuclear weapons in the hands of this evil regime. That is, y'all are insane, bro.
Yep. Yeah, I agree to that. And yeah, I mean, they overthrew the Shah in Iran in 1979, and they've taken over the government, and they've been in power ever since. So there you have it. I thought that was a good perspective from someone who is actually living there and voicing his frustration over the internet. Hopefully he keeps himself safe. Hopefully they don't end up, locating that guy. I mean, I would hope not. But anyway, this is from Rapid Response 47. Must watch Secretary Rubio schools Margaret Brennan on the Iranian regime's nuclear program. I could read the quote or I could just play it. So let's just play it. Let's hear what he has to say.
Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build
point in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not been made.
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain 300 feet
underground?
Right. Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No. They're trying to build
yeah, that's actually a good point.
That's a question of intent. And you know in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threat.
Dude, I can't stand the mainstream media.
I'm talking about the public March assessment. And that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
But that's also an inaccurate representation of it.
Right.
That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is was used. Here's what the whole world knows. Now, forget about intelligence.
They're all about
what the
gotchas.
IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear
What, a power
program.
plant?
So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon,
right.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have
Right.
8,000 short-range missiles and
Space
2,000 to
program.
3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for
They know if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, there's smoke, there's fire.
weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Yes.
That's all we need to see.
Right. Well, and
especially in
so
the
it was
hands
the
of a regime
Yep.
that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all
Yes, and no one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here. And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence that there was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we have intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear
I was going to say, like, why is that not good enough?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, that was the end of that. That was a heated exchange. So, yeah, that happened. So let's go on and move on to Raylan Givens, IDF spokesman, in a statement, quote, "The Iranian nuclear program has been significantly damaged. The damage is profound, and we continue to assess its depth." So that's an ongoing situation. They're trying to, I don't know, figure out how much we obliterated, which sounds like was plenty. So this comes from Eric Daugherty. Holy crap, J.D. Vance just dropped the mic on the Iranians. Let's check this out.
That program is now destroyed. They tried to build a conventional missile program to attack neighbors in the region. That missile program has shown to be a failure. They have funded terrorism aggressively in the region, and now most of their terrorism proxies are destroyed. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance. If they're serious about it, I guarantee you the President of the United States is too.
Yeah, there you go. Man, that audio was way off. But anyway, so this is the last one I have. It's from Big Fish. General Dan Kane gives plan information on Operation Midnight Hammer, 75 precision guided munitions, 14 GBU 57s, and 3 heavily damaged nuclear facilities. So let's give this a listen.
6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time. The lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several
man, they used
aim
14
points
in
at
total.
Fordo.
I heard
As
they only used
the president
6.
stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian
Wait a
nuclear
minute, did he say
infrastructure
Moabs?
targets were 2 nuclear target areas. All
right, hold on. My bad. Let me go back.
Hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas.
Okay.
All 3.
I thought he said Moabs, like the mother of all bombs. I thought, I mean, unless he did say that, and I didn't quite hear him correctly. But anyway, I'll continue.
Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise.
Yeah, and also, nobody mentioned the fact that they did this on Saturday night / Sunday morning. So there probably wasn't anybody working. If there was anybody there at work, just somebody who's working a 9 to 5, just some nuclear engineer guy, college educated. He's got no real dog in the fight. He's just trying to make money and, live his daily life for his family and all that. There probably were little to no people that were underground in those facilities working, I would assume. I mean, I would think, being early Sunday morning. I mean, look, I'm not Muslim or anything. I don't know like what day of the week that they gather and, they do their religious thing. I mean, maybe it's every day. I know they pray throughout the day, but I mean, something tells me that the facilities were more or less emptied at that point, being in the very middle of the night on Saturday night / Sunday morning. So that may have also gone into their strategy when it came to bombing them when they did. I mean, they could have dropped these bombs on them, like at a time when they were fully staffed, and they could have wiped out a whole bunch of, Iranian employees or whatnot. So I just figured that should at least be mentioned. I mean, I don't know if that was part of their strategy, but I assume it probably was.
Throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out.
Well, dude, their stealth bombers are
Iran's
invisible.
Fighters did not fly.
Practically, literally.
And it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise.
And dude,
in total,
we've had these B-2 bombers for what, 35, 40 years at this point. I mean, technology that we've had since like the 90s, maybe even since the 80s. It just kind of makes you wonder. I mean, like, I know we've got like F-35 Lightnings, F-22s. I know we have that new B bomber. I always forget which one it is, like B-35 or B-25 or something like that. It looks similar to the B-2, but it's smaller. So I'm sure it carries a much lesser payload. But I think it's supposed to carry nuclear arms. But yeah, it's just a testament to our military and our technology and how insanely advanced that we really are militarily. It's very impressive.
Employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all three sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers,
refueling,
multiple flights of fourth and fifth generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals.
Hell yeah, son. That was very impressive, the amount of aircraft that was used in that. Even having fighter jets probably just is a deterrent or something. I read somewhere that they even had a decoy out there at some point, like trying to distract the Iranians over to look at something else, like while we flew in. I don't know how true that really was, but that's something that I heard. Anyway, that was the last one that I have. And real quick before I go, I have to find out what the name of that was. The new stealth bomber that we've developed. The B-21 Raider. That's what it's called, the B-21. And that's also a very impressive plane. Let's see here. It's a new stealth bomber being developed by the United States. I thought they had already finished developing this. Strategic bomber designed by Northrop Grumman. It is intended to replace the B-2 Spirit and B-1 Lancer bombers and will be capable of delivering both conventional and nuclear munitions. The B-21 Raider is currently in the testing phase. Okay, so it's not ready yet. I thought they were already finished building these. B-21 Raider, let's see, it's got multiple test flights conducted weekly and is expected to play a critical role in deterring global conflicts. The aircraft is being assembled at the U.S. Air Force Plant 42 near Palmdale, California. I mean, I don't know why they would divulge that information. You think they want to keep that a secret? I fear they'd be, building them in like some like Area 51 type of environment. But in the first two units were under construction as of 2021, and I'm sure those are not cheap to build. Let's take a look and see what they look like. Yeah, see, they look very similar to the B-2. I mean, that's a sexy plane. It looks straight up like a UFO. A freaking black triangle flying. But see, no, maybe that is it. No, that looks like the B-2, though. That one looks like the B-2. Let me just take a look here. Let me go back here. B-21. Brave isn't too great, in my opinion, when it comes to their imagery. It's probably better that I look this up on Google. Yeah, it looks like these are a couple of them. Let me just do this real quick and see if I can get a couple of better images here. Next generation stealth. Here we go. I've seen this image before. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Yeah, there you have it. That, I believe, is the B-2, and that one is the Raider. So, looks maybe a little bit smaller. But, yeah, I mean, slightly. It might be slightly smaller, but maybe not. Maybe it is the same size. But yeah, it doesn't have that zigzag pattern on the back. It's just a single point. But man, that's wild that they can create aircraft like that can actually just not only fly, but fly effectively with multi-thousand-pound payloads. I mean, the bombs that the B-2s just dropped the other night, those things weighed 30,000 pounds each, and they were carrying 2 of them per B-2 stealth bomber. So hella impressive. And let me see what we got here. Comparing stealth bombers. Here we go. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. The new B-21 Raider bears here, let me make this a little, I'm trying to blow it up a bit. It bears a family resemblance to the B-2 Spirit, but the 2 bombers will differ substantially in size and likely their number of engines and payload. Critically, the B-21 will also be far more advanced in terms of low observable technology, at least 2 generations beyond its elder stablemate. Northrop Grumman is the prime contractor for both bombers. So the payload, as I assumed the payload was going to be less because the plane is just smaller in size. So it's going to be less than 30,000 pounds, which means the next generation, the B-21, I mean, if it's going to be designed to carry the bombs that they dropped just the other night, they're only going to be able to carry 1 per plane, I'm assuming, whereas the B-2 is able to carry 60,000 pounds. But that has me wondering if perhaps they're not going to retire the B-2. They just may end up using the B-21 for more advanced missions, stealthy missions, more, I don't know, like more mission critical missions, like when it's capable of doing so. And in situations like what we just had with the bombings of the nuclear facilities, the B-2 would be more appropriate for that because, I mean, it went through, it did its job. It was not detected. There was no surface-to-air missiles, as they stated, that were fired at them, and they didn't even see them coming. So, the B-2 is quite capable of remaining invisible in hostile territory. But, a lot more payload for that one, 172-foot span versus less than 150 feet. But, see, I was sure that I heard somewhere that they had already not only developed them and tested them, but they were already, combat ready. At least that's what I thought that I read, but obviously I was mistaken. Yeah, they're still in the developing or the flight stages, and they've already built a couple of them, and now they're just testing them out and developing them further if needed, tweaking them, and making sure they're just perfect before they deliver them to the U.S. military. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Thanks very much for watching, and see you later.